Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Be Fearless podcast. Today, I have a three times international bestseller author. She is a confidence coach and also an inspirational speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the one and only Dorothy Inez Del Tufo. Welcome, Dorothy.
Hey, hey, hola, hola.
Hola.
This is
So happy to have you here.
Mama.
So happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Finally, we planned this like what 3 months ago.
Yes, 3 months ago.
So looks like we made it.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. I don't know. I have that. I have this. I don't know. Like for me, just to make sure that I have everything set up and everything is just like roll smoothly, like I plan it like months ahead.
Mhm.
And this podcast is not the exception. So I am so glad to have you here finally.
Thank you.
So Dorothy Inez, I need to make sure I call you by the right name.
You know what? Can I just share really quick, because I think people understand. When they understand why
Uh-huh.
names, then it helps them. So, do you mind if I share really?
Sure, just go ahead.
Oh, yeah, really quick. So I was Inez, or Ines, as you would call me, for the last, well, I would say up until the age of 40. And then what ended up happening is when I started my business, I went to the Lord and I was like, I asked God, what should I call my business? And I heard Dorothy Inez, and I'm like, what? Dorothy Inez? I hate that name, Dorothy. Are you serious? And God said, remember what your name means. Remember what your name means. Dorothy means gift of God. And Inez means with a pure heart. And that is who I have called you to be to all the women I serve. And so Dorothy Inez means gift of God with a pure heart. And at the time my name was changed in 2010, Dagmar, I did not feel like a gift of God with a pure heart. I was struggling with unforgiveness. I had a lot of anger in my heart, but it was just at the very beginning of my own journey to self-love and acceptance. And so a part of that was my name being changed, and that name, gift of God with a pure heart, having this awareness was calling me forth in who God was calling me to be.
That's amazing. I love that story. I love it.
So now
Yes.
God with a pure heart, but sometimes, Dagmar, I don't feel like a gift of God with a pure heart when everybody keeps calling me Dorothy, because I'm like, it's Dorothy hyphen. It's like when you see Krista Marie, Sally Sue, but then everyone's go, hey, Dorothy. And I'm like, oh. So
but that's good. You know what I like about that? Because you already came to accept and internalize the name that God gave you. You came to accept your purpose. So now there's no way for anybody to change it because it's already instilled in you.
Yeah, no. And it's my first name, and it's not a name that just got pulled out of the sky, but it is my first name that I never went by my whole life, except on military paperwork, because I'm a child of a military officer. So, Army for life, girl.
Yep. Army for life. That's right. So glad to have you here. Now that we're talking about your childhood and your upbringing, I always ask my guests about their upbringing. Who was Dorothy Inez growing up?
Well, like I mentioned about my birth mother, I was abandoned by my birth mother at the age of 3. She left my brother and I in an orphanage. And, so growing up, that memory is vivid in my mind, and so that impacted my sense of worth and value. But one thing I always knew is that I wanted to be a star. I always wanted to. You can. There's pictures of me dancing. I would get on top of my dad's desk, and I would be singing, and I was like, my name's supposed to be in lights. And so, and when I was going through my self-love journey, Dagmar, one of the things that we had to do, our assignment was to go back to your family of origin and people who knew you growing up and ask them, what do they remember about you? Because they say that who you were meant to be shows up in those early years before the age of 6. Those characteristics show up, and then the world starts squishing them down because what they believe you can and can't do. And I
Mm-hmm.
was always singing, always dancing. I got that consistently. So you're going to see me now singing more. I did my first debut last week on my Facebook page. So that's just, and I grew up in a military family, Army family, and traveled the world my whole life, every 2 to 3 years, moving. And so it's made me very adaptable. I grew up in Germany and traveled all around Europe. And so I'm used to different cultures and, faith traditions. And I just have a lot of respect for diversity.
Oh, wow. I mean, I completely understand about that and moving 2, 3 years. Because I have 24 years of military experience on my shoulders, so I know a lot of people that have gone through that situation, and I completely understand, or at least can relate to how that feeling is of not being able to kind of like put your roots in where you are and just like grow where you are. You always have like to just grab your stuff and keep moving. um
And I love that because, I've been able to see a lot of things, Dagmar, that most people just see in books.
mhm.
And because I've been exposed to different types of people, and because I have to move, I adapt well to change. I have friends I could drive across, because I've driven across the US 4 times by
Mhm.
myself. I have friends in every state, it feels like. And so it gives you an appreciation for people. And especially in this kind of climate, it gives you more compassion. And
Mhm.
you're a part of the change because you experience more than just your little small community, whether that's your town, whether that's your race, whether that's just the little hood that you grew up in. You can kind of have the small mentality versus when you're out and you're moving, you just, life is just so much more expanded.
Exactly. And I think that having that experience also helps people like being more cohesive with others when it comes to making work relationships. And I think that's essential. Like we should like know more about culture and languages as we grow up.
Hmm.
I always say that. Now, so your dream was to be a star.
Hmm.
So then what happened?
Well, I'm a star. It just doesn't
That's right. You are a star.
it just doesn't look the way I thought it would look. I thought, I was going to be, and I will tell you, I did go down that path a little bit in my 20s, and I was working on an album in Germany, and I did dance with a big group that they are very popular now in Europe, and I was a dancer and all that. But then I thought I was going to get married, and I moved to the USA, and that's kind of where it ended. And so I was almost famous. And but then I learned that I was born to be a star, but in a different way, the way that God called me to be a star. And because we're all stars, You know, we were all born to shine, is what scripture says. And it's making a choice to live out your shine. And that is what I teach women. So I'm a star, you're a star. We're all celebrities. Celebrity means to be celebrated, and each and every one of us was born to be celebrated. And so, yeah, so I am living out my purpose. And so I just show up like a star because,
That's right.
girl.
And we love it. And we love it. So tell me, how do you became an author? How was that process and how you got into it?
So that I'm trying to think of the first. So my first book, because I've done it 4 times, 4-time international best-selling author, and that happened. The first book was something heals, success in high heels, success in high heels, and that happened with a friend of mine from Mexico. Entrepreneur. She was putting together, they're all anthologies, and she's like, I'm putting together a book. I think you have an amazing story. And we all collaborated to make this, make this book happen. And that's the first time that I ever shared my journey. Um, my journey to self-love and self-acceptance. And so that's how it started, is doing compilations. And they're a great way when you don't have a super huge budget to get your story out there and collaborate with other women you help each other get your
Exactly.
stories out there. And I just love doing anthologies.
I love that. I love that. And you just mentioned something that I talk about a lot, and it's collaboration.
Mhm.
That's the best way, not other to, just bring our story out there, but to lift somebody else with you in
Yeah.
the process. And I found that like so I think it's essential. Like everybody should do it. Everybody should collaborate more. Right?
Exactly. Because a lot of times women get caught up in comparing, competing, and really that's a lack mindset and lack
Exactly.
mentality. And there's enough for everybody, because here's what I know, Dagmar, is that each and every one of us is here on assignment. Each and every one of us has people that God has assigned us to. So I don't need to worry about what you're doing or if we do the same thing, because the ones that are for you, and the ones that are for me are for me. So I don't need to worry about that kind of, oh, she does the same thing I do. Who cares?
Exactly. And this is something that I was also talking with. I don't know if you know her, Giselle, the branding professor.
No. Mm-mm.
Well, I was talking with her on Instagram not too long ago, and we were talking about that, and that was the fact that you don't need. I mean, when you collaborate, even if you are in the same niche, it doesn't matter. You should do it anyway, because the thing is that there's like billions of people out there, billions of people, and maybe they're not connect with me, but they do connect with you, and that's what they need. They just need to reach out to you, and if I am the vehicle for them to reach out to you, then I just serve my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
and
Exactly.
and that's what people need to see. Maybe your purpose is not to be, well, maybe you are the star, but you being the star of being a breach for others to reach out their destiny.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
And that's and that's the most powerful way to look at it, because what distinguishes, like, I work with women in direct sales. And so even though this person might sell the same product you sell, well, what makes it different is you and who you be in the world.
exactly. So you became 4 times best-selling author internationally, and you then went into the speaking arena. How do you started being out there as inspirational speaker?
Well, I started speaking at the age of 4, and no, I started speaking, it's just come naturally. I remember who was it? I was watching some celebrity say that she she was told all oh I think it was Lisa Nichols shared how she had been told all her life she talked too much. And she said, well, I'm going to turn this, I'm going to go ahead and make a living out of talking too much. And my pastor said the same thing. Pastor Judah Smith in LA, he said the same thing. You know what? Well, I'm going to do a career where I get to talk all the time since I like to talk. And so I really took that to heart because all my life I've been told, you talk too much. You talk too much. That's why I said 4, because that's how far back I can remember being told, you talk too much. And speaking is the easiest way to reach the most people. Getting on somebody's stage, getting a room full of people, doing things like this, being on people's podcasts, being on people's, virtual shows, because you can make more of an impact. And how I get on, if somebody's interested in wanting to speak, is you just got to ask. You got to have the courage to ask, to speak on people's stages and know the value that you bring to their audience. And so that's how I started, is just people find out about me like yourself. And then there's people where I'm like, you know what? I need to be on that stage or be on that show because what they talk about resonates for me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And then you started as a confidence coach. Tell me how that happened. Tell me how that's going. Tell me all about it.
Okay. How much time do we have?
Oh, we have enough time. We have enough time. Don't worry. I'll let you know.
Yeah. So I started out actually. Do you mind if I give just a little background?
Oh, just go ahead.
Okay. So I started out in corporate. How this whole thing even started was working in corporate, especially since today is International Women's Day. I think this is a great story to tell because, yeah, this is all about us today. Is that I was working in corporate, been in there for 25 years, working in telecommunications, leading people. And I accidentally one day went into the drawer of my manager and I found paychecks. And I noticed on a paycheck of one of my peers who was 10 years younger than me that they were making $7,000 a year more than me. And I'm like, wow, I know I've got a lot more experience than this person. And I took it to HR. HR wasn't willing to change it. So here I was, woman, getting paid $7,000 less than a man for the exact same job and was outperforming that person. And they would not do it. So that's what triggered me to begin to look at going for what it is I always wanted to do, and that was to be a makeup artist. And so I took a leave of absence because I was stressed out, and I went to school in LA to become a professional makeup artist, and came back. Retired from my corporate job and started out as a makeup artist. As people were sitting in my chair, I realized, I was working on celebrities like famous news people and models. And I started realizing, Dagmar, that women, no matter how successful they are, they struggle with how they see themselves. And I was one of those women, in corporate, I had the suit on. I looked like, oh, Dorothy Inez has got it going on. She's, so confident. But on the inside, truly, I was a hot mess. I doubted myself. I was angry. So there were times I could be mean. And so that's when I started that self-love journey. And that led me. So my first business launched, the first, phase of this where I am now started in 2010 as a self-love and beauty coach. I launched it February 13th, 2011. And then as I was working on, my master's degree, which I finished my master's 3 years ago, I did my thesis work in the area of confidence. So I'm actually a scientist in in confidence.
Which is fantastic. I love that. I love that.
I'm published in academic journals. My work is that where I study confidence and the correlation of confidence to entrepreneurship in women. And so when I became the confidence expert, I said, you know what? That's exactly what's missing in the women that I meet. It's confidence is the word. And so that's where I decided to lay my hat, because I am an expert in the area of confidence, how to develop it, from an academic space, as well as my own personal journey. I started out confident when I was born and up until the age of 3. But when all that, we all have that stuff that happens in the middle that begins to squash us and squash us and squash us. Motherhood comes in, we lose more of ourselves, wife and all this stuff. And you start forgetting who you are. And before you know it, you're like, where the hell is my confidence?
That's right.
And
That's
so
right.
I'm here to help women restore back to the truth of who they really are.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, tell me what within that journey and you becoming a confidence scientist and all that. What do you think it is the few things that really stop women from showing up, especially entrepreneurs, to show up confident within their business or within their environment? What is those things that stop them?
Well, like I mentioned, first of all, it starts with someone they love, someone they respect, telling them they don't believe in them. You can't do that. They start planting seeds of doubt. Okay. That's number one. So that's always ruminating. That's always playing in their operating system, that they can't do it. So that's where it first starts. Then they may try it. They may try something and then they fail. So then that helps to solidify it. So it's like this stuff that keeps piling on, because in their mind, the story is, even if they don't say it out loud, story might be, I'm not good enough, I can't do that. And so the brain automatically, our brains are programmed to look for the worst in every situation. So our brain is constantly looking for proof. And then the other thing is our self-talk. Because see, we talk to ourselves more than
Anybody.
you might think, well, I don't talk to myself. Girl, you're talking to yourself right now as you're listening
Yes.
to my voice. You are talking to yourself. Yes, you're a little cuckoo. So, but we talk to ourselves the most. And so what we have to learn to do is reprogram that. The scriptures say, that you have to renew your mind. You have to renew your mind on a daily basis. And and it's a practice. It literally is a spiritual practice.
Mm-hmm.
And so how women can begin to, I'm going to guess you're going to ask me how. I'm already starting down there.
Well, I'm about to say this. I think that journaling has, and I say this because I've been doing it since the year started. Mm-hmm. I think that journaling on daily basis does helps to kind of like focus your energy on every day. Mm-hmm. In the morning, get your thoughts, your mind straight on, not only what you want to achieve and the things you're grateful for, but also on appreciate yourself and, appreciate especially how far you have become throughout the, time. Mm-hmm. And see, how far God has bring you, to be the person that you are today, and be grateful for that, Mm-hmm. And I think for me, I think journaling has been a key of, that keeping that self-talk on positive vibes all the time. So,
And when I first started, I actually have about 10 boxes of journals out in my storage that eventually is going to become the book that I write. But journaling is very powerful. We have to learn to reprogram the thoughts. And one of the things when I had a counselor, and my counselor taught me this litmus test. And so anytime a thought would come in to my mind, you could do what you're saying. You could write down the thought, and, so you get it on paper. And then you could say, is this true? No. Or yes. If it's true, if it's yes, then you want to explore. But most often the answer is no. Then the next question you ask yourself is, does this move me closer? Does this thinking move me closer to my goals? The answer is most likely no.
no.
Then the third question is, how can we reframe the thought? So then we write down what is true about you
Mhm.
and what kind of proof. And so you can begin to journal, what kind of proof do you have? So if you say, I am worthy, well, what are some things that show you're worthy? And the more you learn how to combat that, and that's what I was going to say, this is a spiritual practice to tap into and know who you are. I recommend writing your I am statements. Who do you know that you are? Who does God say that you are? Who do those who love you say that that
Mhm.
you are? And write your I am statements. And then what I've done is I have them recorded right here on my phone, and I put some beautiful, relaxing
Music.
music to them. And I listen to them. I put on these earbuds and I listen to my affirmations 2 times a day. I listen to my voice, which
Voice.
is my voice telling me what I'm not. And then I listen to my voice telling me what I am. And
Yes.
I play it's 12 minutes, 2 times a day of who am I? And so that's, one thing I would say. And then the other thing I would say is, the work that I do, Dagmar, is deeply spiritual. It doesn't come from a carnal place. It comes from really aligning the woman with her source, whatever that is. If you're Christian, it can be Jesus. If you're Muslim, whatever your religion is, your source is. And what does source say about you? What is true? And then when you begin to operate from the source within rather than the source without, what other people say, that negative crap you're saying, then you begin to show up more confidently.
Yes.
You take on, like yesterday, my pastor preached on borrowed confidence. You borrow the confidence of the divine, you cloak yourself in that, and then you show up as the light that you were called to be, the star within.
That's right. I love it. Yay. So let me ask you one last question.
Okay.
Let me ask you
One last question.
one
That's
last question.
it. I'm tapped out.
I'm like, where people can find you?
Where people can find me is number one, my website, which is Dorothy Inez at dorothyinez.com. Thank you. She's got it up here on the screen, Dorothy Inez at dorothyinez.com. And remember, my first name is Dorothy Inez. If you call me Dorothy, there's like this invisible hand that goes, boop, and just jumps through your screen, jumps through your phone. Just jump.
Believe me, I felt it early today.
So funny. You got jokes. And then the other place you all can connect with me is in my private Facebook group. This private Facebook group is for women in direct sales, who are looking to develop the confidence that they need to really shine in their direct sales business. And that is the Soulful Confidence group. And you can find me there pretty much every day. And you can just go on my regular Facebook page, which is just my name, Dorothy Inez, which is Dorothy Inez. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I will have to say thank you so much for being here today. Any last word for our audience?
No, I just want to say thank you, Dagmar, for inviting me to share. I appreciate you so much, and I'm so blessed to have sisters like you in my community. And so thank you so much. And audience,
Thank you.
thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, just don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to help.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you everybody for being here today with us. If you have any questions or comments, don't forget to leave them below. We are going to be transmitting this episode on YouTube and also on Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts, along with another 3 other platforms. So don't forget to subscribe to every channel, any platform out there, because we have more for you. Now, don't miss this Wednesday. We have Lala will be our next episode. She's an amazing young woman. She's a singer, and she sings like the angels. Like, she has the most beautiful voice, and you guys cannot miss this interview with her on Wednesday at 1 p.m. here in the Be Fearless podcast. So until then, don't forget to unlock your potential and be fearless. Bye.